You were the strongest man who ever lived and the weakest man who ever loved. Before you were born, an angel came to your mother in a barren house and told her, "This son will be different, set apart, a Nazirite from the womb. No wine will touch his lips, no blade will touch his head." When your father asked the angel his name, he answered only, "Why do you ask? It is beyond understanding." Then he ascended in the flame of the offering, and your parents fell with their faces to the ground. Israel was crushed under Philistine rule, a people with no army, no king, no way to fight back. And God had decided their deliverance would grow up as one boy's hair, uncut, strand by strand, for the rest of his life. By the time you were 7, you were already famous, before you'd done a single thing, marked before you could walk, chosen before you could choose anything for yourself. Every eye in your village watched the boy who was never allowed a razor, wondering what he was actually being saved for. By 18, you were a young man, and one day, alone on the road to Timnah, a young lion came roaring at you out of the vineyard, and something moved in you that wasn't strength. It was the Spirit of God, and your bare hands tore the lion apart like it was nothing, like tearing a piece of bread. You told no one. Some gifts you learned to carry quietly, because the moment people see what you can do, they stop seeing you. Weeks later, you passed the lion's carcass again and found a wild swarm of bees had built a hive inside its ribs, dripping with honey. You ate from a dead thing and found something sweet. And you couldn't have known yet how much that single image would come to describe your entire life. At 19, you fell in love with a Philistine woman, the enemy's daughter, against everyone's warning. At the wedding feast, you turned the honey and the lion into a riddle and bet 30 men your finest linen. Out of the eater came something to eat. Out of the strong came something sweet. 30 men, 7 days. Not one of them could solve it. So on the last day, out of options, they turned to your bride and threatened to burn her father's house down with her inside it if she didn't pry it out of you. She wept in your arms for 7 straight days, wearing you down hour by hour until you finally broke. You gave her the answer, she gave it to them, and on the 7th day they walked up to you smiling, reciting your own secret back to you, and you learned for the first time that the people closest to you could be the ones who hand you over. By 20, you had grown into a giant of a man, taller and stronger than anyone alive. You didn't run. You went to war. You struck down 30 men in fury just to pay off a bet you never should have made. When your own wife was given to another man out of spite, you burned an entire season's harvest of Philistine fields, tying torches to the tails of foxes and letting them run wild through the grain. The Philistines answered by burning your bride and her father alive. The very fire she had betrayed you to escape found her anyway. And when 3,000 of your own people, bound you in new ropes to hand you over and buy a little peace with your enemies, the ropes fell off you like they were burnt string, and you picked up the jawbone of a dead donkey lying in the dirt and cut down 1,000 men before the sun went down. 1,000 men, with a bone. And when it was over, standing on a hill of your enemies, you nearly died, not from a sword, but from thirst. You, the invincible one, crying out to God with cracked lips like any ordinary man. And God split the rock at Lehi, and water came out, and you drank and lived. And maybe that should have been the lesson. Even at your strongest, you were never the source. For 20 years after that, you judged Israel. 20 years of peace, held in place by nothing but the fear of your name. And still, the same hands that could do that would eventually be too weak to stop a woman with a razor. Because it was never the hair, it was the promise. You should have seen it coming. By 38, in Gaza, they heard you'd gone in to see a woman for the night, and they sealed the city gates shut, waiting to kill you at dawn. You woke at midnight, walked to the gate, tore the entire thing off its foundation, posts, bars, hinges and all, and carried it on your shoulders to the top of a hill, miles away, just to prove they could never actually trap you. They could never trap your body, only your heart. At 39, her name was Delilah, and you loved her the way you loved everything, completely, recklessly, without ever asking why the enemy's silver was suddenly so interested in your bedroom. 1,100 pieces of silver, from each of the 5 Philistine lords. That was the price they put on your secret. She never even tried to negotiate. 3 times she asked for your secret. 3 times you lied to her face. Fresh bowstrings that snapped like thread. New ropes that fell away like water. Your hair woven into a loom that tore free with one pull. And 3 times you let her test the lie on you while armed men waited outside the door, holding their breath. You were playing a game you had already lost the moment you started answering. The 4th time, she didn't ask gently. She wore you down the way water wears down stone, day after day, nagging until your soul was tired to death of it. And finally, exhausted, you told her everything. The vow spoken before your birth. The hair that had never once been cut. The strength that was never really yours to keep, only yours to guard, and you had just handed the key to the one person paid to take it. She lulled you to sleep in her lap, and while you slept, she called for a man to shave your head. Every strand falling silently to the floor while you dreamed you were still the man you'd always been. You woke up believing nothing had changed. Same shoulders, same hands, same face. And the Philistines were already in the room. You stood up to fight the way you always had, and for the first time in your life, nothing happened. Because it was never the hair, it was the promise, and you had finally, fully broken it. They gouged out your eyes in front of her. 40 years old, they dragged you in chains to Gaza, the same city whose gates you'd once carried away like a trophy. And this time, there was no wall you could tear down and walk out of. They chained you to a millstone built for an ox and made the strongest man who had ever lived grind grain in the dark like an animal, day after day, until the strength wasted off your body and left you gaunt and hollow, while your enemies laughed in a light you could no longer see. In their temples they sang, "Our God has delivered our destroyer into our hands." But hair grows back, even in a prison, even in the dark, slowly, quietly, with no one watching and no one caring to check. The vow began rebuilding itself on your own skull, one strand at a time, exactly like it had the first time, except now you finally understood what it had actually cost. They didn't notice. They were too busy celebrating. At 41, the Philistine lords gathered 3,000 people into the temple of their god Dagon to mock the god who once made you unstoppable. They brought you out in chains to entertain the crowd, blind, broken, a trophy of the god they were certain had finally won. A boy led you by the hand to the center of the room and stood you between the 2 great pillars that held up the entire roof, so everyone could see exactly how far you had fallen. And there, in the dark, surrounded by the very people who blinded you, you prayed the most honest prayer of your whole life. Not for rescue, not even really for revenge, just one more time. Remember me, God, just this once more. Let me finish what I started. You put your hands on the pillars, both of them, and you pushed with everything you had left. The whole house came down, on the lords who mocked you, on the crowd who cheered your humiliation, on the God who was never a God at all, and on you. You killed more people in your death than in your entire life, blind, chained, and broken, and still, somehow, the most dangerous man in that room, right up to the very last second. Not because of your hair, because of the vow no one could see, quietly rebuilding itself in the dark the whole time everyone thought you had lost everything. You are Samson, You are scripture, you are legend,